welcome. I'm Pallavi Sharma and you're watching Bizworld Weekly, a show where we bring you the top stories of the week from across the world. Let's start with the market check. Indian equity indices ended lower on the fourth consecutive session on January 9th. At close, Sensex was down 0.72% at 83,576.24 points and Nifty was down 0.75% at 25,683.3 points. Adani Enterprises, Shriram Finance, NTPC, ICICI Bank and Jio Financial were the major losers on Nifty, while the major gainers were Asian Paints, ONGC, Bharat Electronics, HCL Tech and Eternal. BSE Midcap Index shed 0.9% while Small Cap Index fell 1.7%. Among sectors except IT, PSU Bank, oil and gas, all other indices ended lower with auto, FMCG, realty and consumer durables down 1 to 2%. Indian rupee ended lower by 14 paise at 90.16 per dollar on January 9th. One week into the new year and it has already been chaotic. Trump greenlit the Operation Absolute Resolve, bombed parts of Caracas and captured the president of Venezuela and his wife on January 3rd. Delta Force swoops in, CIA intel on point, and by dawn, Trump's tweeting pictures of blindfolded Maduro sipping water from a bottle in a grey Nike suit. He calls it a win against narco-terrorists, says that US will run the country till things stabilize and US firms get first dibs on Venezuelan oil. But was it legal? Trump justifies it under Monroe Doctrine, announced by President James Monroe in 1823. It declared that the West was absolutely closed for future European colonization and any intervention there by European powers would be viewed as a hostile takeover against US. Updated for today, Trump's version screams America first. No foreign meddlers like Russia, China or Iran propping up Maduro's regime. In his Mar-a-Lago presser, he said that he was protecting US borders from drugs and gangs. Think spheres of influence. Monroe 2.0 says the Western Hemisphere's off limit for rivals. Critics call it outdated imperialism, but Trump, he's all in, eyeing oil revenue to cover costs. So is it a violation of international law? Experts are screaming yes. UN Charter Article 2.4 bans force against sovereign states' territorial integrity. No self-defense claim here since Venezuela wasn't attacking. No US Security Council nod, no imminent threat proven, and even allies whisper about sovereignty. Trump's team says that Maduro was captured for narco trafficking, so justice is served. Still, backlash from Brazil, EU, and everywhere is a total firestorm. Forget international law, did Trump even get a green light from the Congress? No. Trump went rogue as commander-in-chief, no war powers resolution authorization, no prior briefing beyond a post-raid FYI. House Republicans cheer, but Democrats hold for impeachment hearings. House Democrats are already rallying impeachment articles, citing that the unauthorized Operation Absolute Resolve raid, Maduro's capture, and bypassing war powers resolution, echoing past charges against him, while Trump warns it will happen if Republicans lose 2026 midterms control of Congress. Well, yes, Venezuelans wanted Maduro to be removed from power, but like this, barging into a country and taking the president under custody just because you can do it was not the way. What do you think about this? Let us know in the comments. A 500% tariff for buying Russian oil. This is what US is pushing for now. India may get a 500% tariff blow as Trump greenlights the Sanctioning Russia Act. This is not just a blow for India. China, Brazil, and Europe may also suffer. So what is this act and who is proposing it? Our next report tells you more.
India faces mounting pressure from a proposed U.S. sanctions bill that could slap 500% tariffs on Indian imports over continued purchases of discounted Russian oil, escalating trade tensions amid the Ukraine war. The Bipartisan Sanctioning Russia Act of 2025, spearheaded by Senators Lindsey Graham and Richard Blumenthal, empowers President Trump to target nations buying Russia's energy exports to starve Moscow's war funding. This comes after Trump already imposed 25% tariffs on India in August 2025 as punishment for the same reason, and a 25% reciprocal tariff on Indian goods. So what is this Sanctioning Russia Act of 2025? The legislation authorizes tariffs up to 500% and secondary sanctions on countries importing Russian oil, gas, uranium, or other goods that finance Vladimir Putin's military. It aims to give Trump tremendous leverage over buyers like India, China, and Brazil, forcing them to halt cheap Russian energy deals. If enacted, it would amplify existing penalties, hitting economies reliant on discounted Russian crude. Trump greenlit the bill after a meeting with Graham on January 7, 2026, signaling his support without formally signing it yet. It's advancing via bipartisan Senate momentum. Recently, Trump indicated that the tariffs have strained his relationship with Modi. He is not that happy with me because, they're paying a lot of tariffs now because they are not doing the oil, but they are. They have now reduced it very substantially, as you know, from Russia, he said. Graham announced a potential vote as early as next week, framing it as perfectly timed with Ukraine's peace concessions. So how bad is it for India? India, one of the top Russian oil buyers, already faces 25% U.S. tariffs, with imports down 18% since September 2025 after U.S. sanctions on Russian oil firms. But 500% hikes could devastate exports like textiles and pharma, causing factory slowdowns and economic pain. New Delhi risks supply chain chaos and higher costs, pressuring it to diversify energy sources despite savings from cheap Russian crude.
President Donald Trump storms into Venezuela, captures Maduro, seizes oil tankers, and declares that the US will sell all that crude indefinitely, pocketing billions while rerouting it through American hands. Sounds good for America, right? But not for China. Beijing has tens of billions sunk into Venezuelan oil contracts. Let's start with the setup. Back in Chavez and Maduro eras, China loaned Venezuela over $100 billion from 2000 to 2023, fourth largest recipient ever for Beijing's cash. In return, discounted oil shipped straight to Chinese refineries to pay down the debt. Estimates peg the outstanding tab at $10 to $12 billion today, maybe more since sanctions slowed payments. Big players like China National Petroleum Corporation and Sinopec hold rights to 4.4 billion barrels of reserves, the fattest slice of any foreigner. Maduro was hosting Chinese diplomats hours before the US capture, bragging about this strategic partnership. Enter Trump. His administration now controls sales from Venezuela's storage, kicking off with 30 to 50 million barrels funneled to US accounts, supposedly for the Venezuelan people. US Energy Secretary Chris Wright says that Venezuelan oil will flow indefinitely, sidelining adversarial influences like China. Seized Russian-flagged oil tankers? Check. US oil majors eyeing billions in rebuilds? Double check. Secretary Marco Rubio is blunt. No room for Chinese firms in Venezuela's oil revival. But why are billions at risk? New interim leaders in Caracas, cozy with Washington, could declare those oil for loan deals illegal. And poof, China's IOUs vanish like what happened post-Gaddafi in Libya when Beijing lost billions overnight. Chinese teapot refineries now hooked on cheap Venezuelan crude will face supply cuts. NOCs like CNPC see production slashed in joint ventures, broader stakes. Well, telecom, rails, ports, all will be exposed. Beijing's protesting hard, calling it blatant violation and demanding Maduro's release, but experts say that they lack clout to fight back. No nation can interfere, their Commerce Ministry claims. But is there a silver lining for China? Maybe. Trump might keep some oil flowing to avoid a trade war with Beijing. He's visiting Xi in April to nurture their fragile truce. Beijing could spin this as US bullying, rally Latin America, or snag rebuild contracts later. Trump is betting big, secure oil, kneecap China, boost US energy dominance. But will Beijing blink? World's watching. China has escalated its economic war against Japan over Taiwan, from stopping Chinese to vacation in Japan to banning dual-use goods exports. The rift has deepened. But why? And how does it affect Tokyo? Here's a report.
China has imposed a sweeping export ban on dual-use items to Japan, targeting goods like rare earth elements that could enhance military capabilities in direct response to provocative statements by Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi on Taiwan. This escalation marks a sharp intensification of economic warfare between the two powers. China's Ministry of Commerce announced immediate prohibitions on exporting dual-use items, technologies and materials with civilian and military applications, to Japan for any military end use or purposes bolstering Tokyo's defenses. Additional actions include suspending seafood imports from Japan, slashing flights between the countries, issuing travel and study warnings to Chinese citizens, and launching an investigation into Japanese dichlorosilane imports critical for semiconductors. These steps aim to pressure Japan into retracting Takaichi's erroneous comments while safeguarding Beijing's security interests. Japan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs said in a statement that it had issued a protest with China and demanded the withdrawal of the measures. Tensions stem from Takaichi's November parliamentary remarks labeling a potential Chinese invasion of Taiwan as a survival-threatening situation for Japan, potentially justifying Tokyo's military intervention under its pacifist constitution. But how much is this costing Tokyo? The bans disrupt Japan's supply chains, particularly in autos and semiconductors, where China dominates rare earths, a repeat of havoc wreaked during prior trade skirmishes. Japanese officials warn of undetermined but severe industry fallout, protesting the measures as unacceptable deviations from global norms. While analyzing responses, Tokyo faces heightened costs, supply shortages, and strained bilateral trade, exacerbating vulnerabilities in its export-driven economy.
After the Venezuela crisis, there is one crucial question in everyone's mind. Who's next? Colombia, Cuba, Mexico, or Greenland? Yes, Trump has talked about all of them, but Greenland has been discussed more times than others. Donald Trump wants to take over Greenland. Trump is calling the massive icy island absolutely necessary for national security. So what is Trump's plan? Fresh off his 2025 inauguration, he's ditching polite talks. No more $600 billion buyout offers like in his first term. Now he's talking military options. Aboard Air Force One just a few days ago, he said Denmark won't be capable of managing it, promising to handle Greenland in about 2 months. White House insiders whisper negotiations first, purchase or lease, but top officials like Marco Rubio admit that military is always an option. Think bases expanded, maybe even a full takeover if talks stall. Vice President J.D. Vance visited last March, pushing for changes in Danish leadership while nodding to Greenlanders' say. Polls: 85% of locals say no way to US rule. But why this obsession? The US has eyed Greenland since the 1800s. It's not new. Post-Civil War expansion fever, Cold War fears, and now Arctic rivalry. Russia and China are buzzing up their subs, bases, claims, etc. Now, Trump sees it as America's backyard slipping away. Greenland is gold mine for the US. Strategically, it's parked right on missile paths from Russia to America, perfect for Trump's Golden Dome defense shield. Melting ice opens shipping superhighways, Northwest Passage and transpolar routes. Controlling them, controlling trade and power. Resources, rare earth minerals for EVs, turbines and missiles. China's got the monopoly, but Greenland's got billions in untapped reserves. Oil, gas, everything is still there. National security meets economic jackpot. This is not one-off. In the past, US has tried to take over Greenland. At least 4 big tries and all failed. 1867 post-Alaska by Seward pitched it. Denmark laughed off. 1910 swap it with Philippines, Mindanao. Nope. 1946, Truman's secret $100 million gold offer under the table rejected flat. 2019, Trump's 1.0 floats a buy. Denmark PM calls it absurd, cancels his visit. History verdict, no sale. This time too, Denmark is not budging. Its Prime Minister says Greenland is not for sale repeatedly. And taking over Greenland is not easy. Remember, NATO, America and Denmark both are a part of it. The key motto of the alliance is a war on an ally means a war on NATO. If US uses military to take over Greenland, it means NATO may have to fight against itself. It could lead to a NATO meltdown. So will Trump pull it off? Time will tell. Massive protests have erupted in Iran due to severe economic crisis. We're talking about skyrocketing inflation and a collapsing currency. These protests started with merchants in Tehran's Grand Bazaar on December 28 and now have spread across 22 of Iran's 31 provinces. This has evolved into a broader anti-regime anger amid clashes that have killed at least 36 people till now. So why did these protests actually start? Protesters began over economic despair but quickly turned political, with chants targeting Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei and calls for regime change. Unlike 2022-23 protests triggered by Mahsa Amini's death over hijab laws, these stem primarily from merchants and bazaris frustrated by inflation exceeding 52% in 2025 and food prices raising 7% monthly. Youth unemployment, corruption, and eroded purchasing power have fueled participation from students and workers. But what caused the economic crisis in Iran? Iran's economy faces domestic woes like high inflation, foreign exchange shortages, and low wages worsened by external factors including US and UN sanctions on its nuclear program. US President Donald Trump's resumed maximum pressure campaign and UN snapback sanctions have slashed oil prices and access to global banking. Recent reforms like ending essential import subsidies and $7 monthly cash transfers have failed to calm the unrest. US sanctions intensified under Trump's second term restricts Iran's oil exports, technology imports, and financial transactions, compounding UN measures over nuclear activities. These have halved the rial's value in 2025 alone, hitting a record low of 1.46 million to the US dollar and fueling import costs for essentials. Regional conflicts like 12-day war with Israel in June 2025 also drained resources. The rial's plunge stems from sanctions cutting hard currency inflows, rampant inflation, and lost export revenues, making everyday items scarce and expensive. This sparked merchant shutdowns in commercial hubs and broader fury over the government mismanagement. But why are protesters calling for a regime change now? Long-standing authoritarianism, IRGC repression, and corruption breed resentment, with protesters viewing the regime as prioritizing ideology over welfare. Khamenei's security forces have also cracked down violently. It's war season and Trump wants US to be safe. In a post on Truth Social, he said that US would raise its defense budget by 50% from $1 trillion to $1.5 trillion. He says that he will build a dream military. What does he mean by that, and how will he fund this big dream military? Our next report tells you everything that you need to know.
President Donald Trump proposes boosting the U.S. defense budget to $1.5 trillion for 2027, a 50% jump from the current $1 trillion, to build what he calls a dream military amid rising global threats. This escalation addresses what Trump describes as a volatile international landscape demanding unmatched American strength. The plan signals his aggressive push for military dominance. Trump argues the surge counters adversaries exploiting perceived U.S. weaknesses, citing China's naval expansion, Russia's Ukraine aggression, and Iran's proxy wars. He frames it as essential for deterrence, rapid response, and technological superiority in hypersonics, AI-driven warfare, and space defenses. Past budget hawks now back the move, tying it to recent successes, proving high spending's value. The Dream Military envisions a next-generation force with 50% more ships, doubled long-range munitions, and AI-integrated platforms outpacing rivals. Key pillars include massive F-35 fleet growth, new hypersonic carriers, and cyber units rivaling China's. Trump pitches it as restoring Reagan-era might, fully funding recruitment to hit 1.5 million active troops. Trump plans to offset the $500 billion hike largely via tariff revenues from his trade wars, targeting China, India, and others. In the past, he also claimed that the revenue will be used to reduce the $38 trillion national debt and provide $2,000 dividend to eligible Americans. This comes after just days ago, U.S. forces executed Operation Absolute Resolve on January 3, 2026, launching strikes across Venezuela, capturing President Nicolás Maduro and his wife in Caracas using over 150 aircraft, drones, and special forces. The raid suppressed air defenses, hit key bases, and secured oil deals, showcasing precision amid months of buildup. Trump hailed it as proof of military readiness, with no U.S. casualties reported.
That's all for this week. I will see you in the next. Till then, keep watching ET Now for more such news and views.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.